The bustling streets of Boston held countless stories within their weathered cobblestones and historic buildings, but none quite as extraordinary as the one that was about to unfold on the corner of Maple and Brunswick Street. There, beside a worn-out storm drain, a German shepherd maintained what appeared to be an endless vigil, her dark coat gleaming under the warm Massachusetts sun. At first glance, she might have seemed like any other stray, but there was something different about her presence, a dignified determination that set her apart from the usual wandering souls that roamed the city streets. Her deep brown eyes held a wisdom that spoke of purpose, of duty, of an unspoken promise that she seemed determined to keep. Emily Harrison noticed this mysterious guardian during her daily walks to the local veterinary clinic where she worked. As a veterinarian who had dedicated her life to healing animals, she had developed a keen eye for their behavior patterns. This particular dog's actions struck her as peculiar from the very first moment she spotted her. Day after day, the shepherd maintained her position by the drain, her posture alert yet weary, as if carrying the weight of an invisible burden. The morning rush of commuters barely seemed to register in her consciousness. She remained focused solely on her self-appointed task, whatever that might be. It wasn't until a particularly warm Tuesday in April that Emily decided to do more than just observe. Armed with a freshly bought turkey sandwich from Mike's Deli, she approached the dog carefully, speaking in soft, gentle tones that she usually reserved for her most nervous patients at the clinic. "Hey there, beautiful," she coaxed, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. "You must be hungry." The shepherd's ears perked up at Emily's voice, but her eyes never left the storm drain. There was an intelligence in her gaze that made Emily's heart ache. This wasn't simply a stray seeking shelter or food. This was something else entirely. As Emily unwrapped the sandwich and held out a portion, the dog's behavior grew even more intriguing. Instead of immediately devouring the offering as most strays would, she gently accepted it with almost aristocratic grace. But what happened next left Emily completely baffled. The shepherd carefully carried the food to the storm drain and dropped it through the grate. The action was so deliberate, so purposeful, that Emily found herself rooted to the spot, watching as the dog returned to her position, assuming her vigilant stance once again. The whole scene played out like a well-rehearsed performance, leaving Emily with more questions than answers. Throughout the rest of her workday, Emily couldn't shake the image from her mind. Between treating a golden retriever with an ear infection and performing routine vaccinations on a litter of kittens, her thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious shepherd and her peculiar behavior. That evening, as she closed up the clinic, Emily made a decision. She would get to the bottom of this mystery, no matter what it took. She began asking around the neighborhood, approaching local shop owners and residents who might have noticed the dog's unusual behavior. Mrs. Chun, who ran the corner store, mentioned that the shepherd had been there for at least 2 weeks. The barista at the local coffee shop claimed it might have been longer. Each person she spoke to had noticed the dog, but none had taken the time to investigate further. They had simply accepted her presence as another quirk of city life, like the eccentric street performer who played the violin in the park, or the old man who fed pigeons every morning at sunrise. But Emily knew better. In her years of working with animals, she had learned that they never did anything without reason. This steady vigil, this careful routine of delivering food through the grate, it all pointed to something deeper, something that tugged at her professional instincts and her compassionate heart. As the sun began to set over Boston's skyline, casting long shadows across the historic streets, Emily made her way home, her mind already forming plans. Tomorrow, she would bring more food, maybe set up a small observation post during her lunch break. She would solve this mystery, one way or another. Little did Emily know that she was about to uncover a story that would touch not only her heart, but the hearts of an entire community. A tale of devotion and compassion that would remind everyone of the extraordinary bonds that can form between the most unexpected of creatures. If this story has captured your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. Let's continue. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, with the first hints of spring warming the Boston air. Emily arrived at the storm drain earlier than usual, armed with a bag full of supplies. Fresh water, premium dog food, and even a soft blanket she'd brought from home. The German Shepherd was already there, maintaining her steadfast watch over the mysterious grate. This time, Emily noticed something she hadn't before, a slight graying around the dog's muzzle, suggesting she wasn't as young as initially thought. Yet despite her age, there was a strength in her bearing that spoke of unwavering determination. The shepherd acknowledged Emily's presence with a slight tilt of her head, but maintained her protective stance. "You're quite the dedicated guardian, aren't you?" Emily murmured, settling down on a nearby bench. She had cleared her schedule during lunch, determined to spend more time observing this peculiar situation. As she watched, more of the neighborhood regulars passed by, each one now paying more attention to the scene than they had in previous weeks. Mr. Peterson, the retired mailman who still took his morning walks along his old route, stopped to share what he knew. "Been watching her for a while now," he said, leaning on his cane. "Never begs, never bothers anyone. Just stays right there, watching that drain like it holds all the secrets of the universe." Emily nodded, taking mental notes. "Have you ever seen her leave?" "Only briefly," he replied, "and always returns within minutes. It's like she's afraid to be away too long." He paused, then added thoughtfully, "You know, I've been walking this route for 30 years, seen all sorts of things, but never anything quite like this." As they talked, the shepherd remained focused on her task, though her ears swiveled occasionally to track their conversation. Emily noticed how the dog's eyes would dart periodically to different sections of the grate, as if checking multiple points of interest. There was nothing random about her behavior. Every movement seemed calculated and purposeful. Throughout the morning, Emily observed as various people stopped to offer food or attempted to pet the dog. The shepherd's response was always the same: polite acceptance of food, which she would promptly deliver to the drain, followed by a quick return to her post. She allowed no one to linger too close to the grate, maintaining a protective perimeter with quiet but firm determination. During her observation, Emily began to notice subtle patterns in the dog's behavior. Every hour or so, the shepherd would perk up, becoming more alert, as if listening for something. Her ears would prick forward, and she would lower her head closer to the grate, sometimes letting out a soft whine that was barely audible above the street noise. By mid-morning, word had spread about Emily's informal investigation. Sarah, a local journalist from the community paper, stopped by with her camera. "I've been meaning to write about this," she admitted, snapping a few photos. "People have been talking, you know. Some say she might be waiting for a lost owner. Others think she's just confused. But you think there's more to it, don't you?" Emily nodded, watching as the shepherd gracefully accepted another offering from a passing businessman, following her now familiar routine of delivering it to the drain. "Look at how deliberate her actions are," Emily pointed out. "This isn't confusion or simple habit. She's caring for something down there or someone." As if to confirm Emily's theory, the shepherd let out another soft whine, this one slightly more urgent than before. Emily leaned forward, trying to catch any sound that might be coming from the drain, but the morning traffic drowned out any subtle noises that might have revealed the mystery solution. The growing crowd of observers had begun to affect the normal flow of pedestrian traffic, creating a small bottleneck on the sidewalk. Yet the shepherd remained unperturbed by the attention, focused entirely on her mission. Her dedication was beginning to inspire others. Emily noticed several people returning with food and water, having visited the nearby shops specifically to help. As the morning wore on, Emily's professional instincts began to crystallize into a theory. The regular checking, the food delivery, the protective behavior, it all pointed to something specific. But she needed more evidence, more observation time to be sure. Whatever this dog was guarding, it was clearly worth sacrificing her own comfort and safety to protect. Emily pulled out her phone and began making calls. If she was right about what was happening here, they would need help, professional help, to resolve this situation properly. But first, she needed to gain the shepherd's trust completely. This wasn't just about solving a mystery anymore. It was about helping a creature whose devotion to duty had touched the hearts of an entire neighborhood. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Boston streets, Emily found herself completely invested in the mystery of the German Shepherd and her sacred duty. Her lunch break had long since ended, but she called the clinic to rearrange her appointments, explaining that she was dealing with an urgent animal welfare case. Her colleagues, knowing her dedication to animals in need, didn't question her decision. The shepherd had begun to show subtle signs of accepting Emily's presence. While maintaining her vigilant watch over the storm drain, she would occasionally glance in Emily's direction with what seemed like acknowledgement, perhaps even appreciation. It was a small change, but to Emily, who had spent years reading animal behavior, it felt like a significant breakthrough. "I think I'll call you Hope," Emily said softly, sitting cross-legged on the sidewalk at a respectful distance. "Because whatever you're protecting down there, you haven't given up hope." The dog's ears twitched at the sound of her new name, and for a brief moment, her eyes met Emily's with an intensity that seemed to convey understanding. Throughout the afternoon, more neighbors joined the informal vigil. Amanda, who owned the bookstore around the corner, arrived with a portable chair and a thermos of coffee for Emily. "I've been watching her for days from my shop window," she explained, settling down nearby. "The way she takes care of whatever's down there, it's like watching a mother with her child." The comparison struck a chord with Emily. Hope's behavior did indeed mirror that of a nurturing parent. The constant checking, the food sharing, the protective stance. But there was something else. Something about the timing of her increased alertness that made Emily suspect there was more to the story. As the day progressed, Emily noticed how the community was transforming around this simple storm drain. People who normally rushed past each other without a glance were now stopping to chat, sharing theories about Hope's mystery. The local coffee shop had started offering free cups to those who brought food for the shepherd. Even the usually grumpy newsstand owner had set up a small water bowl near his stall. Sarah, the journalist who had stopped by earlier, returned with her photographer. "This is more than just a story about a dog," she mused, watching as Hope gracefully accepted another food offering from a child before making her careful delivery to the drain. "It's about how one animal's dedication can bring an entire community together." Emily nodded, her eyes never leaving Hope. "Animals have so much to teach us about loyalty and compassion," she replied. "But I'm worried about what's down there. The temperature's dropping at night, and if there's something or someone who needs help." Just then, Hope's behavior shifted. Her ears pricked forward, and she lowered her head to the grate, letting out a soft whine that was different from her previous vocalizations. Emily leaned forward, trying to catch any sound from below, but the street noise made it impossible to hear clearly. A group of schoolchildren stopped on their way home, pressing their faces against the safety railings their parents had installed earlier in the day. "Miss," one little girl called out to Emily, "why doesn't someone just go down there and look?" "It's not that simple," Emily explained, watching as Hope resumed her protective posture. "We need to be careful. Whatever's down there, Hope has been taking care of it for weeks. We can't risk frightening or hurting it by rushing in." As the afternoon began to fade into evening, Emily made a decision. She pulled out her phone and began making calls to the city's various departments. They would need permits and professional help to investigate properly, but more importantly, they would need to ensure that whatever they found would be protected and cared for as diligently as Hope had been doing. The street lights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the scene. Hope remained at her post, her dark fur glinting in the artificial light. Emily watched as the shepherd performed one last food delivery before settling down for the night, her body positioned to block any direct access to the grate. "Don't worry, girl," Emily whispered, gathering her things as she prepared to leave for the night. "We'll figure this out together. Whatever you're protecting, we'll make sure it's safe." Hope's eyes followed her as she stood, and for the first time, the shepherd let out a soft woof. Not a warning, but what seemed like an acknowledgement of their growing partnership. As Emily walked home that night, her mind was already formulating plans for the next day. The mystery of the storm drain had captured not just her attention, but the hearts of an entire neighborhood. Tomorrow would bring them one step closer to understanding Hope's unwavering dedication. But for now, the faithful shepherd would continue her solitary vigil, guardian of secrets yet to be revealed. The next morning arrived with an unexpected flurry of activity around the storm drain. Word had spread through social media and Sarah's preliminary article in the local paper, drawing curious onlookers from across Boston. But what touched Emily's heart wasn't just the growing crowd. It was how the neighborhood had mobilized overnight to support Hope's mission. Someone had set up a small canopy to protect the area from the elements. Beneath it, an organized collection of supplies had appeared. Blankets, pet food, water bottles, and even a custom-made sign that read Hope's Watch Station. The German Shepherd observed these developments with her usual stoic demeanor, never straying from her self-appointed post, but seeming to appreciate the community's efforts. "It's amazing how much has changed in just a few days," Amanda remarked, arriving with her morning coffee and a fresh sandwich for Emily. "Last week, people barely noticed her. Now look at this." She gestured to the growing collection of supplies and the impromptu volunteer schedule posted on a nearby lamppost. Emily nodded, touched by the transformation. The local businesses had organized themselves into a support network. The cafe provided hot beverages for the volunteers. The hardware store had donated safety equipment, and even the luxury pet boutique down the street had sent over premium dog food and supplies for Hope. Mrs. Chun from the corner store approached with her grandson, Tommy, who carried a notebook filled with careful observations. "He's been watching from our store window," she explained proudly, writing down everything Hope does like a real scientist. Tommy opened his notebook eagerly. "She checks the drain exactly every 43 minutes, he reported, pushing his glasses up his nose. "And sometimes, when there's less traffic noise, you can hear something from down there, like a soft sound." This information piqued Emily's professional interest. "What kind of sound, Tommy? Can you describe it?" The boy furrowed his brow in concentration. "It's kind of like a quiet mewing sound, but different. Sometimes it sounds scared." Emily exchanged glances with Amanda. They both knew that any rescue attempt would need to be handled delicately. Hope had been protecting whatever was down there for weeks, and rushing the situation could make things worse. As if sensing their concerns, Hope let out a soft whine, moving closer to the grate. Her behavior had become more animated since Emily's involvement, as if she understood that help was finally coming. She would occasionally look at Emily with an almost pleading expression, then back at the drain, as if trying to communicate the urgency of the situation. Mid-morning brought an unexpected visitor, Dr. Marcus Chun, a renowned animal behaviorist from the local university. He had read Sarah's article and came to observe Hope's behavior firsthand. "This is fascinating," he murmured, watching as Hope performed her regular food delivery routine. "The level of dedication, the organized pattern of behavior. This goes beyond simple animal instinct." Emily shared her observations with Dr. Chun, detailing Hope's consistent patterns and protective behaviors. The professor listened intently, taking notes and occasionally nodding in agreement. "What strikes me," he said finally, "is how she's adapted her natural guarding instincts into this complex caregiving role. She's not just protecting something, she's nurturing it." As they discussed theories, a small commotion arose near the cafe. A local news van had arrived, drawn by the growing social media buzz around Hope's story. The shepherd remained unfazed by the additional attention, but Emily and the other regulars formed a protective barrier, ensuring the media presence wouldn't disturb Hope's routine. Sarah, who had been documenting the story from the beginning, stepped in to manage the situation. "We need to keep this calm and controlled," she insisted to her fellow journalists. "This isn't about getting the most sensational story. It's about helping Hope complete her mission, whatever that might be." The afternoon brought more surprises. Local children had begun creating artwork inspired by Hope, decorating the nearby walls with colorful drawings of the shepherd and her mysterious drain. Parents used the opportunity to teach their kids about compassion and dedication, making Hope's vigil a powerful lesson in caring for others. As the day drew to a close, Emily sat beside Hope, sharing a quiet moment amidst the continued activity around them. The shepherd had grown comfortable enough with her presence to accept gentle pats, though she never fully relaxed her guard. "Tomorrow," Emily promised softly, "we'll have the permits and equipment we need. Whatever you're protecting, we'll make sure it's safe." Hope turned to look at her, those intelligent eyes seeming to hold both trust and anxiety. The bond between them had grown stronger, built on mutual respect and understanding. As the street lights began to flicker on, Emily realized that this wasn't just about solving a mystery anymore, It was about honoring the extraordinary dedication of a creature who had brought an entire community together in the name of compassion. Dawn broke over Boston with a sense of anticipation. Emily arrived early, armed with the necessary permits and a carefully crafted rescue plan. The city officials had worked through the night to expedite the paperwork, moved by Hope's story and the community's unified support. The German Shepherd greeted Emily with what seemed like relief, as if sensing that help was finally coming. "Today's the day, girl," Emily said softly, kneeling beside Hope. "We're going to help you with whatever you've been protecting all this time." The shepherd's tail gave a slight wag, the first Emily had seen since meeting her, before she resumed her vigilant position by the drain. The rescue team began arriving in stages. First came the structural engineers, who needed to assess the safety of the surrounding area. They brought sophisticated equipment to scan the underground network of tunnels and ensure their intervention wouldn't cause any collapse. Hope watched their activities with intense interest, occasionally approaching to inspect their equipment before returning to her post. Dr. Marcus Chen arrived next, bringing specialized audio equipment to record and analyze the sounds Tommy had mentioned. "If we can identify what we're dealing with," he explained, setting up his sensitive microphones, "we can better prepare for the rescue." The community continued its remarkable support. Local restaurants sent over breakfast for the rescue team, while nearby offices offered their parking lots for the equipment. Even the city's parks department had sent representatives to help manage the growing crowd of onlookers and ensure the operation wouldn't be disturbed. Sarah, who had been documenting every development, approached Emily with her notebook. "The response has been overwhelming," she said, showing Emily messages from across the country. "People everywhere are invested in Hope's story. They want to know what she's been guarding all this time." As the morning progressed, the rescue team assembled their equipment with methodical precision. Hope seemed to understand the significance of these preparations, her behavior shifting between anxiety and anticipation. She began making more frequent checks of the drain, her whines becoming slightly more urgent. Tommy arrived with his mother, clutching his observation notebook. "Look," he said excitedly, showing Emily his latest entries. "The sounds are different today. They're stronger, like whatever's down there knows something's happening." Emily shared this information with Dr. Chun, who immediately adjusted his recording equipment. The sensitive microphones picked up faint sounds that had been previously masked by street noise. The professor's eyes widened as he listened through his headphones, quickly motioning for Emily to join him. "This is remarkable," he whispered, passing her the headphones. "Listen carefully." Emily put them on, and her heart skipped a beat. The sounds were clearer now, and they confirmed her growing suspicions about what, or who, Hope had been protecting. She looked at the shepherd with newfound admiration, understanding now the full extent of her dedication. The rescue team gathered for a final briefing. They had brought specialized cameras, lifting equipment, and veterinary supplies, preparing for every possible scenario. Hope watched the proceedings with increasing interest, occasionally approaching different team members as if inspecting their readiness. As the afternoon approached, everything was finally in place. The crowd had grown larger, but remained respectfully quiet, understanding the delicacy of the situation. Local police had cordoned off the area, ensuring the rescue team would have the space they needed to work safely. Emily knelt beside Hope one last time before the operation began. "You've done an amazing job," she said softly, gently stroking the shepherd's head. "Now, let us help you finish what you started." Hope's eyes met hers with an intensity that seemed to convey both trust and urgency. The rescue team took their positions, each person knowing their role in the carefully choreographed operation. The structural engineers gave their final clearance, and the specialized equipment was moved into place. Hope maintained her position by the drain, but her posture had changed. She seemed ready, almost eager for what was about to happen. As the team prepared to remove the grate, a hush fell over the gathered crowd. Everyone present knew they were about to witness the resolution of a mystery that had captured their hearts and imaginations. Hope's unwavering vigil was about to reveal its purpose, and the truth behind her extraordinary dedication was finally about to be uncovered. The moment of truth arrived with the first turn of the wrench on the storm drain's bolts. The rescue team worked with careful precision, aware that any sudden movement could startle whatever lay below. Hope watched intently, her body tense but controlled, showing a remarkable understanding of the delicate operation unfolding before her. As the grate began to lift, Dr. Chun positioned his recording equipment closer, capturing every sound from beneath. The crowd held its collective breath, hundreds of phones raised to document this historic moment in their neighborhood story. Emily stood beside Hope, one hand gently resting on the shepherd's back, feeling the slight tremors of anticipation running through the dog's body. The first beam of sunlight penetrated the darkness below, and the rescue team's specialized cameras began transmitting images to their monitors. What they revealed caused a ripple of amazement through the gathering. There, in a small alcove just below street level, lay the answer to the mystery that had captivated Boston. "I can't believe it," whispered Sarah, her journalist's composure momentarily forgotten. "It's incredible." The cameras revealed a small, dry platform that Hope had somehow found or created using debris and discarded materials. On this makeshift shelter, protected from the water and weather, lay a tiny kitten, its gray fur barely visible in the dim light. But that wasn't all. Beside it, equally tiny and vulnerable, was a young raccoon kit, both animals huddled together for warmth. Dr. Chun adjusted his glasses, studying the monitor with intense interest. "This is extraordinary," he muttered. Cross-species nurturing behavior at this level is extremely rare in the wild. Hope hasn't just been protecting them. She's created a family. Emily watched as Hope's demeanor changed. The shepherd's usual stoic guard dropped slightly, replaced by what could only be described as pride. She approached the opening, letting out a soft whine that was immediately answered by sounds from below. The kitten and raccoon kit responded to her call, their voices stronger now that the barrier between them had been removed. The rescue team's veterinarian, Dr. Rodriguez, prepared to descend into the drain. "They appear to be young," she observed, studying the monitor. "The fact that they've survived this long is nothing short of miraculous. Hope must have been keeping them warm and fed this entire time." As Dr. Rodriguez carefully made her way down, Hope watched with intense focus, but made no move to stop her. It was as if the shepherd understood that these humans were here to help, that her long vigil had finally brought the assistance her unusual family needed. The crowd watched on the monitors as Dr. Rodriguez gently examined both animals. "They're thin, but surprisingly healthy," she reported via her headset. "Hope's been bringing them food regularly. The kitten appears to be about 4 weeks old, the raccoon maybe 3 weeks. They've bonded with each other, probably for survival." Tommy, who had been taking notes frantically, tugged at Emily's sleeve. "Look at Hope," he whispered. "She's smiling." Indeed, the shepherd's expression had softened, her tail giving small wags as she watched the rescue unfold. The weeks of worry and responsibility were visibly lifting from her shoulders. Dr. Rodriguez carefully placed each animal in a specialized carrier, ensuring they could still see and hear each other. As she emerged from the drain, Hope approached, gently sniffing each carrier before giving what sounded remarkably like a sigh of relief. Her mission was finally complete. The crowd erupted in applause, phones capturing the moment as Hope stood proudly beside her rescued charges. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes as she continued documenting the scene. "This isn't just a story anymore," she said to Emily. "This is a miracle." Emily knelt beside Hope, wrapping her arms around the brave shepherd who had demonstrated such extraordinary compassion. "You did it, girl," she whispered. "You kept them safe until help could come. You're a true hero." As the rescue team prepared to transport the animals to the veterinary hospital for thorough examinations, Hope's attention remained fixed on the carriers. Her posture had changed, no longer the tense guardian, but still the protective mother. It was clear that her role in this remarkable story was far from over. The sun began to set over Boston, casting a golden glow over the scene. The day's events had transformed not just the lives of 3 animals, but the entire community. Hope's unwavering dedication had revealed something profound about the nature of compassion, transcending the boundaries of species to create something truly extraordinary. The veterinary hospital buzzed with excited energy as Hope's unusual family arrived. Emily had arranged for them to be treated at her clinic, where she could personally oversee their care. Hope remained calm during the short journey, her eyes never leaving the carriers containing her adopted babies. The examination room had been specially prepared to accommodate all three animals together, understanding the unique bond they shared. Dr. Rodriguez worked alongside Emily, conducting thorough checkups while Hope watched attentively from a comfortable bed they'd set up in the corner. "It's remarkable," Dr. Rodriguez said, examining the kitten. "Despite living in those conditions, they're both surprisingly well-nourished." Hope must have been sharing every morsel of food she received. She gestured to the shepherd, who sat alertly monitoring every movement. She wasn't just feeding them. She was sacrificing her own meals to keep them healthy. The kitten, a tiny gray female with white paws, showed no fear of human handling. "She's been socialized," Emily noted, watching as the little one purred during her examination. Hope must have been teaching them to trust humans by example. The raccoon kit, though slightly more reserved, also displayed an unusual comfort with human presence. News of the successful rescue had spread rapidly through social media, and the clinic's phones were ringing constantly with calls from people eager to help. Local news crews gathered outside, while Sarah, who had earned exclusive access through her dedicated coverage, documented the examinations for her follow-up story. "We'll need to keep them here for observation," Emily explained to the gathered staff. "They're young enough to need regular feeding, and we want to ensure they're completely healthy before making any decisions about their future." She glanced at Hope, who had barely moved from her vigilant position. And of course, Hope stays with them. The clinic staff quickly organized a schedule to provide round-the-clock care. They transformed one of the recovery rooms into a comfortable space where all three animals could stay together, complete with soft bedding, appropriate toys, and monitoring equipment. Hope inspected every item they brought in, maintaining her role as protective mother. As evening approached, Emily sat on the floor beside Hope's bed, watching as the kitten and raccoon kit played together under the shepherd's watchful eye. "You know," she said softly, "you've taught us all something incredible about love and dedication." Hope turned to look at her, those intelligent eyes seeming to hold wisdom beyond human understanding. The unique family had already captured hearts worldwide. Social media was flooded with their story, and offers of support poured in from everywhere. Local artists created drawings and paintings of Hope's vigil, while children sent letters and handmade toys to the clinic. Tommy arrived after school with his mother, clutching his observation notebook and a new stuffed animal for each of Hope's babies. "Can I read them my notes?" he asked hopefully. "I wrote down everything Hope did to protect them." Emily smiled and nodded, watching as the boys settled down to share his detailed accounts with the attentive animals. Dr. Chen visited later that evening, still fascinated by the behavioral aspects of the situation. "We're seeing something quite extraordinary here," he explained, watching as Hope gently encouraged the kitten and raccoon to eat from their separate bowls. "She's not just acting on instinct anymore. She's actively teaching them, socializing them for a life among humans." The clinic staff noticed how Hope had begun allowing them to assist with caring for her charges, though she still supervised every interaction. She would gently nudge the kitten toward the veterinary technicians at feeding time and show remarkable patience as they checked the raccoon's vital signs. As night fell over Boston, the clinic quieted except for the soft sounds of contentment coming from the special recovery room. Emily, staying late to monitor their first night in their new environment, watched through the observation window as Hope curled protectively around her sleeping babies. The shepherd had created something remarkable. Not just a family that defied natural boundaries, but a story that reminded everyone of the extraordinary capacity for love and compassion that existed in the animal kingdom. As Emily prepared to leave for the night, she realized that while one chapter of Hope's story had concluded, another was just beginning. The next few weeks would bring new challenges and decisions, but for now, Hope's family was safe, warm, and together. The faithful shepherd could finally rest, knowing that her unprecedented vigil had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, and that her remarkable tale of devotion would continue to inspire others for years to come. In the days following the rescue, Hope's story transformed from a local curiosity into a global phenomenon. The clinic became the center of an unprecedented wave of attention, with people from all walks of life drawn to the tale of a shepherd who had transcended natural instincts to create an extraordinary family. Sarah's detailed article, published in the Boston Globe, captured the hearts of readers worldwide. The Guardian of Maple Street, as the story was titled, painted a vivid picture of Hope's unwavering dedication and the community that rallied around her. The piece sparked conversations about animal intelligence and emotional capacity that reached far beyond Boston's borders. Emily arrived early each morning to find small gatherings of people outside the clinic, hoping to catch a glimpse of the remarkable family. Children pressed drawings against the windows, while adults left notes of encouragement and support. The clinic staff carefully filtered these offerings, creating a cheerful display in Hope's recovery room. "The impact has been incredible," Amanda remarked one morning, visiting with fresh pastries for the clinic staff. "My bookstore has started a reading corner dedicated to animal rescue stories. Children sit there for hours, sharing their own pet stories and drawing pictures for Hope." The clinic had adapted to accommodate their special residents. The kitten, now named Luna for her silvery fur, had grown more playful each day. The raccoon Kit, dubbed Ranger by Tommy, showed remarkable intelligence in problem-solving games the staff provided. Hope watched their progress with evident pride, her maternal instincts now balanced with a growing trust in their caregivers. Dr. Chun continued his observations, documenting every interaction for a groundbreaking study on cross-species bonding. "What we're seeing here challenges everything we thought we knew about animal relationships," he explained to Emily. "Hope isn't just caring for them. She's teaching them how to navigate both the animal and human worlds." The community's support manifested in practical ways as well. Local businesses organized fundraisers for the clinic's rescue program, while the city council began discussing improvements to their animal welfare policies. Hope's story had sparked a movement, inspiring people to look more closely at the homeless animals in their own neighborhoods. Even the corporate world took notice. Pet food companies sent supplies, while animal welfare organizations offered resources and support. A children's book publisher approached Sarah about adapting Hope's story for young readers, seeing its potential to teach valuable lessons about compassion and dedication. Tommy had become a regular visitor, spending hours observing and documenting the family's daily routines. His detailed notes caught Dr. Chen's attention, leading to discussions about developing a youth science program focused on animal behavior. "Young minds like Tommy's remind us to look at the world with fresh eyes," the professor noted. One afternoon, as Emily conducted her daily checkups, she noticed something remarkable. Hope had begun teaching Luna and Ranger basic commands, using gentle nudges and encouraging sounds to guide their behavior. The shepherd would demonstrate actions like sit or stay, then watch expectantly as her adopted children attempted to mimic her. "She's preparing them for life in human society," Dr. Rodriguez observed, watching the impromptu training session. "It's as if she understands that their future depends on being able to interact safely with humans." The story's impact continued to grow in unexpected ways. Local schools requested presentations about Hope's family, using their story to teach lessons about empathy and responsibility. Art galleries displayed collections of Hope-inspired works, with proceeds benefiting animal rescue organizations. As evening settled over the clinic, Emily sat with Hope and her unusual family, reflecting on the changes of the past few days. The shepherd had not only saved 2 young lives, but had inadvertently sparked a movement that was changing how people viewed animal relationships and responsibility. Luna curled up against Hope's side while Ranger explored a new puzzle toy nearby, their contentment evident in every movement. The shepherd maintained her watchful presence, but there was a new peace in her bearing, the satisfaction of a guardian who had not only completed her mission, but had inspired others to follow in her footsteps. Outside, the last visitors of the day reluctantly departed, leaving behind more tokens of appreciation and support. Hope's story had become more than just a heartwarming tale. It had become a catalyst for change, a reminder that sometimes the greatest teachers of humanity could be found in the most unexpected places. As the second week at the clinic progressed, Hope's unusual family settled into a routine that captivated everyone who witnessed it. The shepherd had developed a remarkable system of care that combined traditional maternal instincts with innovative problem-solving skills, demonstrating an intelligence that continued to amaze even the most experienced animal behaviorists. Emily watched in fascination as Hope orchestrated meal times with military precision. The shepherd would guide Luna and Ranger to their separate feeding stations, ensuring each received the appropriate nutrition for their species. More impressively, she had begun teaching them patience, making them wait for her signal before starting to eat, a behavior that Dr. Chen noted was rarely seen in cross-species interactions. What we're observing here goes beyond basic caregiving, Dr. Chen explained during one of his daily visits. Hope is actively preparing them for integration into a broader social structure. She's teaching them rules that will help them coexist with both humans and other animals. The clinic had become a learning center of sorts, with veterinary students from across the country applying for internships just to observe this unprecedented family dynamic. Emily carefully screened each request, mindful of maintaining the calm environment that Hope had worked so hard to create. Sarah, who had become a regular presence at the clinic, was working on a follow-up piece about the broader implications of Hope's story. It's not just about animal rescue anymore, she reflected, watching as Hope supervised Luna and Ranger's play session. This is challenging our entire understanding of what animals are capable of feeling and achieving. The kitten and raccoon had developed their own unique ways of communicating, not just with Hope, but with each other. Luna would often alert Hope when Ranger had wandered too far during exploration time, while Ranger would share his toys with Luna in a display of learned generosity that delighted observers. Tommy, whose presence had been officially sanctioned by the clinic as a junior research assistant, had started a blog documenting the family's daily activities. His simple, honest observations had attracted followers from around the world, including several prominent wildlife researchers. Yesterday, Hope taught them about gentle touching, he read from his latest entry. She showed Luna how to play with Ranger without using her claws, and showed Ranger how to be careful with his stronger paws. It's like she knows they're different, but also knows they can learn to be careful with each other. The impact of Hope's story continued to ripple through the community. Local shelters reported increased adoption rates, with many people specifically asking about animals with special needs or unusual circumstances. The city council had begun implementing new programs to support stray animals, inspired by the recognition that every creature deserved a chance at finding their own family. One afternoon, during a quiet moment between visitors, Emily noticed something extraordinary. Hope had arranged her charges in a sunny spot by the window, where Luna and Ranger had fallen asleep together. The shepherd sat guard nearby, but her posture was different, more relaxed, more content. She had begun to trust that her family was truly safe. Dr. Rodriguez conducted her weekly checkup, noting the remarkable progress of all three animals. Their bond has actually strengthened their individual development, she observed. Luna is more confident than typical kittens her age, while Ranger shows unusual social skills for a wild animal. And Hope, she's blossomed into something extraordinary. The clinic staff had started documenting what they called Hope's life lessons, the subtle ways the shepherd taught her adopted children about trust, boundaries, and cooperation. These observations were being compiled into a research paper that promised to challenge conventional wisdom about animal cognition and emotional capacity. As evening approached, Emily sat with Hope while Luna and Ranger played with their latest enrichment toys. "You've started something amazing," she told the shepherd softly. "You've shown us that family isn't about species or biology. It's about love and dedication." Hope's response was to gently gather her charges closer, demonstrating once again the infinite capacity for love that had driven her to maintain that lonely vigil by the storm drain. Her story had become more than a viral sensation or a scientific curiosity. It had become a powerful reminder that the truest forms of love often transcended all natural boundaries. The sun set over Boston, casting long shadows through the clinic windows, but Hope's family remained in their pool of warmth, a living testament to the extraordinary possibilities that could emerge from one simple act of compassion. As the third week of their stay at the clinic drew to a close, The question of the unusual family's future began to weigh on everyone's minds. The bond between Hope, Luna, and Ranger had grown even stronger, making it clear that separating them would be unthinkable. Emily spent countless hours considering various options, knowing that finding the right solution would be crucial. The situation presented unique challenges. While Luna could easily be adopted into a traditional home setting, Ranger's status as a wild animal required special considerations. Hope's dedication to both her charges meant that any solution would need to accommodate all three of them together. "We need to think outside the box," Dr. Chen suggested during a strategy meeting with clinic staff and city officials. "What we have here isn't just a pet adoption scenario. It's an opportunity to create something entirely new." Emily had been quietly working on a solution, inspired by the community's overwhelming support. The clinic owned an unused acre of land behind the building, originally purchased for future expansion. With proper development, it could become something extraordinary. "What if we created a sanctuary?" she proposed, spreading out preliminary plans on the conference table. Not just a home for Hope's family, but a learning center where people could come to understand the deeper connections possible between different species. The idea caught fire immediately. Sarah's article about the proposal generated an overwhelming response, with offers of support pouring in from architects, contractors, and donors. The City Council fast-tracked the necessary permits, recognizing the educational and cultural value of such a facility. Tommy, ever the enthusiastic observer, had his own suggestions. "They need a place that feels like both inside and outside," he explained, showing Emily his detailed drawings. "Like a big indoor garden where Ranger can climb and explore, but also cozy spots where Luna can take naps in the sun." The community rallied around the project with characteristic enthusiasm. Local businesses organized fundraisers, while construction companies offered materials and labor at cost. Landscape architects volunteered to design natural spaces that would meet the needs of all three animals while remaining accessible for educational programs. Hope seemed to sense the excitement building around her family's future. She watched with interest as surveyors marked out the land and carefully inspected the preliminary construction work during her supervised outdoor time with Luna and Ranger. "She's checking everything," Amanda observed, watching Hope investigate the foundation work, making sure it's safe for her babies, just like she always has. The design incorporated elements of both wild and domestic spaces. There would be climbing structures and natural hideaways for Ranger, cozy corners and high perches for Luna, and comfortable observation points for Hope to maintain her watchful presence. The facility would include indoor and outdoor areas, allowing the family to choose their environment while remaining safely contained. Dr. Rodriguez worked with wildlife experts to ensure the habitat would meet all necessary regulations while providing optimal living conditions for each animal. "This isn't just about creating a home," she explained. "It's about respecting and supporting the unique dynamic they've developed." As construction progressed, Emily spent more time observing how the family interacted with their environment. Hope had begun teaching Luna and Ranger about different textures and surfaces, showing them how to navigate various terrains safely. This information was immediately incorporated into the habitat design. The sanctuary would also include a research area where Dr. Chun and other scientists could continue studying this remarkable example of cross-species bonding. "What we learn here could revolutionize our understanding of animal relationships," he noted, reviewing the plans. Tommy's blog about the sanctuary's development attracted international attention, with schools and universities requesting permission to include Hope's story in their curricula. The young observer had become an unexpected authority on the family's dynamics, his simple but insightful observations providing valuable data for the project. As the sanctuary took shape, Hope's family continued to grow and develop. Luna had become an expert at gentle play with Ranger, while the raccoon Kit had learned to moderate his natural curiosity with careful consideration for his feline sister. Hope watched over their progress with evident satisfaction, her role evolving from rescuer to teacher. The sun set over the construction site, casting long shadows across what would soon become a permanent home for this extraordinary family. Emily stood with Hope at the clinic window, watching the workers finish up for the day. "You've changed so many lives," she told the shepherd softly. And now you're helping create something that will continue to change lives for years to come. Hope's response was to gather her charges close, as she had done so many times before. But now there was a new confidence in her bearing, the assurance that her family's future was secure, and that their story would continue to inspire others to look beyond the boundaries of conventional wisdom to find the true meaning of family. The grand opening of the Hope Family Sanctuary approached with an air of excitement that swept through Boston like a warm spring breeze. The transformation of the clinic's backyard into a state-of-the-art facility had become a symbol of what communities could achieve when united by compassion. The sanctuary exceeded everyone's expectations. Natural light flooded the indoor spaces through carefully positioned skylights, while native plants and trees created a living tapestry throughout the grounds. The design seamlessly blended wild and domestic elements, creating an environment that perfectly suited its unique inhabitants. "It's more than we could have dreamed," Emily remarked, watching Hope explore the new space with Luna and Ranger. The shepherd moved through the habitat with purposeful attention, investigating every corner and feature as if mentally mapping safe routes for her charges. The facility included several innovations inspired by Hope's own teaching methods. There were graduated climbing structures that allowed Luna and Ranger to build confidence at their own pace, and specially designed feeding areas that encouraged cooperation. Hope had already begun incorporating these new elements into her daily lessons with her unusual family. Tommy, now officially the sanctuary's junior naturalist, had set up an observation station where he could continue his documentation. "Hope's already showing them how to use everything," he reported excitedly. "She tests each new thing first, then shows them the safe way to try it." The educational center, attached to the main habitat, was designed to share Hope's story and its broader implications with visitors from around the world. Interactive displays explained the science behind cross-species bonding, while windows into the habitat allowed visitors to observe the family's natural interactions. Dr. Chun had begun preparations for a long-term research project based at the sanctuary. "What we're seeing here could revolutionize our understanding of animal cognition and emotional capacity," he explained during a tour for visiting scientists. "Hope and her family are showing us that the boundaries we've drawn between species may be more fluid than we ever imagined." Sarah's final piece about the sanctuary's completion had garnered international attention. "This isn't just about providing a home for 3 remarkable animals," she wrote. "It's about recognizing and honoring the extraordinary capacity for love and adaptation that exists in the natural world." The impact of Hope's story continued to ripple outward. Other cities had begun implementing similar programs for animal welfare, inspired by Boston's example. Schools incorporated lessons about Hope's family into their curricula, teaching children about empathy and the importance of looking beyond surface differences. As the day of the official opening drew closer, Emily spent extra time observing the family in their new home. Hope had settled into her role with characteristic grace, maintaining her protective watch while allowing her charges to explore and grow. Luna had claimed several high perches as her own, while Ranger had discovered favorite climbing spots, but both always returned to Hope's side for comfort and guidance. "She's created something remarkable," Dr. Rodriguez noted during a final health check of all 3 animals. "Not just a family, but a model for how different species can coexist and thrive together." The sanctuary would serve multiple purposes: a forever home for Hope's family, a research facility for studying animal behavior, and an educational center promoting understanding and compassion. But perhaps most importantly, it would stand as a testament to the extraordinary events that had brought it into being. Amanda, organizing the sanctuary's small library of animal behavior books, summed it up perfectly. "Hope showed us that love doesn't need to follow conventional rules. Sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that create themselves." As twilight settled over the sanctuary, Emily found Hope and her charges in their favorite spot, a cozy corner where natural and artificial light created a perfect blend of their 2 worlds. Luna was curled up against Hope's side, while Ranger explored nearby, secure in the knowledge that his family was close by. The shepherd's eyes met Emily's with that same intelligence and determination that had first caught her attention by the storm drain. But now there was something else there too: contentment, perhaps even joy. Hope had not only saved her unusual family, but had inspired a movement that would continue to change lives long into the future. The stars began to appear over Boston, twinkling through the sanctuary's skylights. In the peaceful evening quiet, surrounded by the results of her unwavering dedication, Hope gathered her family close, their unlikely bond a living reminder that love knows no boundaries. The morning of the sanctuary's grand opening dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating this momentous occasion. Crowds gathered early, eager to witness the culmination of a journey that had begun with one dog's unwavering vigil by a storm drain. Emily stood at the entrance, watching as Hope guided Luna and Ranger through their morning routine in front of amazed visitors. The family had adapted beautifully to their new home, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The shepherd moved with quiet confidence through the habitat, her protective instincts now balanced with the wisdom of knowing her family was truly safe. "Look at how far they've come," Sarah remarked, putting the finishing touches on her commemorative article. "From a storm drain to this amazing sanctuary. It's like a fairy tale, except it's real and even more beautiful." The ceremony began with Tommy cutting the ribbon, an honor he'd earned through his dedicated documentation of the family's journey. His observation notebook had become part of the sanctuary's permanent exhibition, showing visitors how a child's pure perspective had helped unravel the mystery of Hope's dedication. Dr. Chun presented his preliminary research findings, which had already begun to reshape scientific understanding of animal relationships. "What Hope has demonstrated goes beyond instinct or learned behavior," he explained to the assembled crowd. "She's shown us that the capacity for love and family can transcend all natural boundaries." The sanctuary itself had become a model for similar facilities around the world. Delegations from other cities toured the space, taking notes on its innovative design that balanced the needs of different species while maintaining a natural environment. The educational center buzzed with activity as visitors learned about the extraordinary events that had led to its creation. Luna and Ranger, now nearly fully grown, had developed their own unique ways of interacting with visitors. The kitten, elegant and graceful, would demonstrate the careful play techniques Hope had taught her, while Ranger showed remarkable social skills for a wild animal, always maintaining the boundaries Hope had established. "They're not just surviving together anymore," Dr. Rodriguez observed during the celebrations. "They're thriving. Each one has maintained their natural characteristics while adapting to this unique family dynamic. It's exactly what we hoped to achieve." As evening approached, Emily found herself back at the spot where it all began, the storm drain on Maple Street. A commemorative plaque had been installed, telling the story of the shepherd who had touched so many hearts. The neighborhood had changed too. People walked more slowly now, paying attention to the world around them, always ready to help an animal in need. The impact of Hope's story continued to grow. Animal welfare organizations reported increased adoption rates, especially for animals with special needs or unusual circumstances. Schools incorporated lessons about compassion and understanding into their curricula, using Hope's family as an example of how differences could become strengths. Back at the sanctuary, Hope watched over her family with the same dedication that had first caught Emily's attention. But now her vigil was one of joy rather than anxiety, of pride rather than worry. She had not only saved 2 young lives, but had created something extraordinary, a new definition of family that transcended all conventional boundaries. "You know," Tommy said, making his final notes of the day, "Hope didn't just rescue Luna and Ranger. She rescued all of us a little bit too. She showed us how to be better." As the sun set on the sanctuary's first official day, visitors departed with hearts full of wonder and minds open to new possibilities. The story of Hope and her unusual family had become more than just a heartwarming tale. It had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that love in its purest form knows no limits. Emily sat with Hope and her family in their favorite spot, watching as the first stars appeared through the skylights. The shepherd gathered Luna and Ranger close, as she had done countless times before, but now there was a peaceful finality to the gesture. Their journey from survival to safety, from desperation to joy, was complete. The legacy of the German Shepherd who had maintained that lonely vigil by a storm drain would live on, not just in the sanctuary that bore her name, but in the countless lives she had touched and changed forever. Hope had shown the world that family isn't defined by species or circumstance, but by the capacity to love without boundaries, to protect without hesitation, and to create beauty from the most unlikely beginnings. As night settled over Boston, the lights of the sanctuary glowed softly, a beacon of hope and possibility for all who saw it. Inside, a shepherd and her unusual family rested peacefully, their extraordinary bond a living testament to the power of love to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Hope's story had come full circle, from a storm drain to a sanctuary, from desperation to triumph, reminding everyone that sometimes the most beautiful things in life begin with a single act of compassion. Amigos leitores, esperamos que a história de Hope, Luna e Ranger tenha tocado seus corações. Para continuar esta jornada emocional, preparamos uma playlist especial com histórias igualmente inspiradoras. Encontrem-na aqui, clicando à esquerda. Se gostaram desta história, não se esqueçam de se inscrever em nosso canal e dar um like no vídeo. Todos os dias trazemos histórias únicas que exploram a complexidade da vida e o poder do amor. Não percam nossos próximos conteúdos. Aguardamos seus comentários. Conte-nos o que esta história significou para você.